The Miami Dolphins last season had a surefire division lead and then choked it away before losing in the wildcard round in an unbelievable collapse. Now, they're turning to help from another team, the Philadelphia Eagles, that also had a monumental division lead and then choked that away before losing in the wildcard round, having an epic collapse. I can't believe Miami and Philadelphia actually did that. Just ignore the Jaguar logo here. Ignore the fact that I'm a Jaguar fan. Welcome, everybody, to JG9 News, where we talk all things NFL all the time. I'm Jared Garrett, representing the 904 from the 602, and today we are talking about this team behind me right here, the Miami Dolphins, wanting to get a new receiver, and it looks like they are turning to the Philadelphia Eagles for some help, because after 4 seasons in Philadelphia, Quez Watkins is a free agent. Doesn't look like he's coming back to Philadelphia, and it looks like the Miami Dolphins are interested in his services. This, according to a report from Barry Jackson, who is a reporter for the Miami Herald, has been a well-regarded reporter for 35 years there. As he said, Dolphins have been poking around on more receivers to fill out their rotation. Among the names they've inquired about, per source, Quez Watkins, who caught 98 for 1,249 yards and 6 touchdowns for Eagles over the past 4 years. I'm sure there are others too. Not sure who they'll add, but more to come. So as Barry Jackson said, Quez Watkins, 4 seasons in Philadelphia, 98 catches, 1,249 yards, 6 touchdowns. Last season with the Eagles, 15 catches, 142 yards, and a touchdown. His best season coming in 2021, when he had 43 catches for 647 yards and a touchdown. And I see why this move makes a ton of sense for Miami and why the Dolphins are in on this. For one, Quez Watkins is super duper fast. His 40 time is 4.35. Eagle fans have a lot of things to say about Quez Watkins, but you can't knock his speed. And he fits that mold, the Dolphin mold of fast weapons on offense. Look at guys like Tyreek Hill, Achane, Mostert, Waddle. The average 40 time between those 4 guys is 4.33. Quez Watkins fits right in at 4.35. On top of that, the Dolphins desperately need help at wide receiver, not just in terms of getting good receivers. And again, I'm not saying Quez Watkins is a good receiver. We'll talk more about that in just a bit. But just in terms of getting bodies, because the main guys they had last year, Robbie Chosen, Robbie Anderson, free agent. Chase Claypool, he's a free agent. Cedric Wilson Jr. left for the Saints. You only have 3 wideouts right now that I can confidently say are going to make the team and make the 53-man roster. Braxton Berrios, Jalen Waddle, and Tyreek Hill. And in fact, Tyreek Hill might not even make the 53-man roster. You might only have 2 receivers to start the season off if Hill starts the season with a suspension due to the recent report where police visited his house on January 30th. For those who don't know, there was a recent report that came out about Tyreek Hill and how the police were called to a domestic dispute at his house in January. According to a report from the Miami Herald, this coming from Pro Football Talk's website, police arrived onto the scene and it looked like Tyreek Hill had a dispute and smashed an unlit cigar in a woman's face. Now, Tyreek said that he simply flicked the cigar, denied that it actually struck her, but Tyreek Hill admitting to arguing that there was a dispute and that he's been working on himself. The league might take action, and what that means is that the Dolphins might only have 2 receivers that I can confidently say are going to make it on the 53-man roster, since Tyreek Hill wouldn't count for week 1. On top of that, the Miami Dolphins, super thin on draft picks. You only have 2 in the first 4 rounds. You have pick number 21 in round 1, pick number 55 in round 2, and that's it. You lost your 3rd round pick due to tampering in the rights to get Tom Brady. You lost your 4th round pick in the Bradley Chubb trade with the Denver Broncos. So you only had 6 draft picks to work with, 2 in the first 4 rounds, and you're not taking a receiver super high in all likelihood due to needs at other positions. You lost Christian Wilkins at free agency. You need to plug up that defensive line. You lost Robert Hunt in free agency to the Carolina Panthers. Offensive line is now an issue. You need to bulk up the interior, and that's assuming Aaron Brewer plays center. If he plays guard, maybe not so much. But if he plays center, you need to get a new guard. Now, you patched up the hole at linebacker with Shaq Barrett and Jordan Brooks, replacing Andrew Van Ginkel and Raekwon Davis. So you're not in a massive bind there, but you probably want to patch up the defensive line and the offensive line on the first 2 Ds. And even if they do take a receiver, You're probably not taking multiple when you have that few draft picks. You don't have enough picks to build out a quality wide receiver unit from a depth perspective unless you go all in and neglect other positions. So you need to sign some bargain bin free agents and need to sign some guys that might fit your scheme that are available in free agency for not a high price. And that's why I think Quez Watkins makes a ton of sense, especially because if you want to say, well, why can't they just draft receivers on day 3 to fill that void, fill out the depth, especially if you only have 3 wideouts that are confidently making the team? Just draft 2, even draft 1 on day 3, and you'll be good to go. Well, here's the thing. Chris Grier is not good at drafting wide receivers. Chris Grier, he's been the general manager of the Dolphins since 2016. He is not good at drafting wide receivers, especially late. Obviously, Jalen Waddle, round 1, incredible pick. He's a great receiver. No one's taking anything away from that. Outside of round 1, again, Chris Grier, been the GM for nearly a decade. Here are the receivers that Chris Grier has drafted outside of round 1. You had Leonte Carew from Rutgers. He had 12 catches for 192 yards and 2 touchdowns. That was a third-round pick. That was a complete waste. Jakeem Grant from Texas Tech in 2016. 91 catches, 1,001 yards, 5 touchdowns. Not a whole lot. Isaiah Ford in 2017 out of Virginia Tech. 63 catches, 681 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not a whole lot. Malcolm Perry, 2020 out of Navy. He was off the team after 1 season, 9 catches, 92 yards. Eric Ezukama from Texas Tech in 2022. 2 seasons with the team, 1 catch, 3 yards. He had no catches last year. He might not make the roster in 2024. And then this past season, they drafted late Elijah Higgins out of Stanford. He didn't even make the team. He's currently on the Arizona Cardinals. So Chris Grier, in his near decade-long stint as the GM, has not found a quality receiver outside of Jalen Waddle. Now again, I am not saying that Quez Watkins is good by any means whatsoever. I want to make that very clear. I want to make it very clear that Quez Watkins is not that good. He was playing way too many snaps last season. He is not a strong receiver. There was one stretch during the year where every time the Eagles threw a pass to Watkins, disaster happened. There was a 5-throw stretch where you had Watkins getting targeted, and it resulted in 3 interceptions, a fumble, and a drop. Quez Watkins' name at one point last year was like Voldemort. You didn't say it. I'm not saying that Quez Watkins is good, but he has better production across his 4-year career than literally every receiver in every stat, minus Jalen Waddle, in terms of the receivers that Chris Grier has drafted. So it makes sense why the Dolphins would want to look at Quez Watkins when they have a thin receiving unit as it is, don't have a lot of cap space, and they need to just sign bargain bin free agents that fit the mold. And with Watkins' speed, it makes a lot of sense why that would be the case. Especially because Quez Watkins, again, it's not going to cost a whole lot of money. Even if he does factor into the compensatory pick formula, even if you gain a compensatory free agent according to the NFL, so what? Honestly, so what? So you lose a 7th rounder that you would have gotten from Deshaun Elliott. Big whoop. You got a 3rd rounder from Christian Wilkins, the 3rd rounder from Hunt. You don't need the 7th rounder from Elliott. On top of that, you've already got a 4th rounder in 2025 from the Denver Broncos in that Bradley Chubb trade. So you've got 10 picks for 2025 already. Watkins is way more valuable at this present moment than a 2025 7th round pick with pick number 250 or so, when you have an 11th pick in the 2025 draft that you probably don't need. So it makes sense why Quez Watkins could potentially come to the Miami Dolphins. He's been linked to them according to the Miami Herald. We'll just have to wait and see if the Dolphins decide to sign him and how they fill out this very thin receiving unit. Again, at the top, it's great. I like Berrios a lot. And then obviously Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, one of the best 1-2 combos at wide receiver in all of football. You can make the argument it is the best 1-2 combo. I'm sure there are some fans that would disagree with that. Philadelphia Eagles with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith. The Chicago Bears now, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, they're making a consideration for that. They're making a run for that. Having said that, the Dolphins are definitely up there at the top. The bottom, they need to really, really get it together at wide receiver. Probably need to add 2 more bodies, maybe a draft pick and Quez Watkins. And I could see Quez Watkins going to Miami if the reports are true. But what are your thoughts on Quez Watkins? Do you think he will sign with the Miami Dolphins? Do you think that the Dolphins will upgrade at wide receiver? Do you think they're going to roll with the receiving unit they have right now? What do you think Quez Watkins' contract would look like? Probably a one-year deal, but how much money do you think he would get? Keep in mind, Braxton Berrios making about $3 million, so you're probably looking at Quez Watkins up to about $4 million, I'd say. Probably somewhere in that ballpark, max of $4 million. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. That's going to do it for this episode of JG9 News. Be sure you like and subscribe. It helps the channel out a lot. And be sure to check out my main channel, Jaguar9, where we talk all things NFL history all the time. Until next time, this is Jaguar9 signing off, and as always, go Jags.